Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and welcome back to the Midland Amateurs Esports League. And this is game number 2. Between our Zerg hero spawning on the lower left-hand side, he is going to be the purple Zerg player, falling to a quick 0-1 in this series. It is ExionSpawn. His opponent going to be spawning on the top right-hand side is the yellow Zerg player, winning the first game with a very aggressive pool opening. It is going to be the yellow Zerg. It is Proficient. So we didn't really get much of a chance to see, a big macro style of game. And I do know Spawn's play quite well. He plays on my show quite often, and so I know that Spawn's strength really is in those longer macro-esque games. So Spawn's real challenge is if he can live through the early game. His mid game is pretty average. It's pretty average. But once he can hit that late game, that's where I really feel like Spawn shines a lot of the time. I don't know Proficient, so, we'll just have to kind of see what he brings out. But I do love opening up the tournament with a very, very early aggression like he did. Just try to take a quick 1-0 lead. And you know what he did in the series? It worked out for him. And you know what? If you lose that, well, it's a best of 3. You have a chance to move on and try something a little bbit different in game number 2. And also, you know what? If you lose that first game, and you drop 0-1 for the week, if in the first week of MAeSL he goes 0-1, well, that's fine, because there's plenty of weeks left to make that up. So I like that opening out of Proficient. Going for something a little bit more standard this time, a little bit safer, and I love that too. Almost, I wouldn't necessarily say metagaming Spawn, but just make Spawn probably a little bit uneasy going into game number 2, and probably even game number 3. If he does indeed win this one. Spawn going to go for a fairly greedy opening here, actually going for hatch before pool, so probably something like a 15 hatch there. Now saving up the minerals and going to drop the spawning pool down in his main base. So 15 hatch and 16 pool. Pretty standard stuff coming out of ExionSpawn there. Proficient going to be going a little bit safer, going for the pool than the hatch, which probably smart. Probably smart considering that he went for such an early pool last game. Might be scared that Spawn might be doing something a little bit the same this game. I know, crap, I can't remember if it's the 8 pool or the 10 pool is really prevalent right now. It's one of the two. Okay, it's one of the two. I think it's the 10 pool. No, you know what, screw it, I'm not even going to theorize. One of those 2 pool openings is very popular for kind of, it can work as defense, and it can work as aggression. And if the aggression doesn't work out, well, it's not the end of the world. And I'm fairly certain it's the 10 pool, actually. So, you know what? Screw it. I am going to go ahead and theorize on that one. So, yeah, Spawn going to take a little bit of an earlier economic lead here. And considering I don't think Proficient is looking to do too much aggression, that's definitely going to benefit Spawn here. Just getting a nice little advantage in the early game, which is something that he never really got to establish last game. There was something else I was going to talk about last game, but I can't remember what it was. By the way, I'm using open broadcast software now, and I'm still kind of playing around with a lot of the settings. So if you guys have anything you'd like to say about that, let me know if something's going wonky or something. And I may not be catching it. I'm trying to keep a pretty good eye on all my processes, but something can slip by. So if there's something wrong, you guys just let me know. By the way, I would like to take a quick moment in the early game here to thank our sponsors here at the Heartland Esports Association. That is going to be Quick Tech Computers for all your computer repairs and building needs. It's going to be 70M Gaming. They host parties, folks. And it is going to be... Ooh, Zergling's going to be coming into the natural expansion here, getting a nice scout off. Will they get into the main base? I think they will, and oh, he's going to be blocked by that queen probably. They're pretty much going to see everything standard. Oh, I actually did manage to jump up and see that second gas there. That's actually kind of a big deal. And I apologize, that last sponsor that we have, I believe they're a newer one. It is going to be Condemned Custom Controllers, which I think is a little bit self-explanatory. Baneling next going to be going down in the natural expansion. I think that's kind of interesting positioning for that Baneling nest there. But as a Zerg player, you really need pretty much all your buildings to do something for you. And actually, I believe that the positioning of this is so that he can put a queen here if Spawn really felt like he needed to. He could put a queen here and wall off the ramp to make sure stuff couldn't get up into his main base without taking the long route around the entire hatchery. Some Banelings being morphed in here defensively. That's going to be a lot of Zerglings coming in from Proficient here. Going to be continuing to stream Zerglings out across the map, actually. These Zerglings do outnumber Spawn, but once these Banelings pop out, I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. And there's the Banelings. Oh, one hit going off, killing off, I believe, 3 Zerglings in there. Zerglings are Proficient, going to be trying to come back in. They're going to be able to kill off, well, that one drone. I think Spawn could benefit a little bit from some multitask there, maybe throwing a Baneling out along the long way here, while putting a couple into his own mineral line there to try to surround these Zerglings. Oh, going to get that Queen off guard there. Nice little victory for Proficient. Oh man, those Banelings getting so close. Going to waste a Baneling on a single Zergling there. That is a great trade for Proficient, who I just don't think can really continue with this aggression. There we go, a ton of Zergling now popping out for ExionSpawn, which means that it's Spawn's turn to actually run out across the map and try to get a little bit of damage done here. Proficient, I think, is obviously going to know this is happening, and oh, Spawn might be able to surround what's left of these Zerglings. I think that might be what he's going for. Yes, these Zerglings' lives are forfeit. Speed is done for both of these players now, so no real advantage goes to either player in that, right? Spawn going to be running up in here, and then the Baneling that's not actually done for Proficient quite yet, and I don't know if Spawn has enough Zerglings here. I think Proficient is going to have that defender's advantage there, and one Queen is going to go down and quite a few Zerglings, but I think really in this engagement, both players ended up fairly even. I think it's good that Spawn ran out across here and did manage to take out that Queen. I think that's definitely something that he needed to do, considering he lost one of his own Queens. But I really feel like neither player got a huge advantage in that, right? One thing to note, Spawn does still have these 3 defensive Banelings, and there are a lot of Zerglings coming back across the map for Proficient here. No Roach Warren, and Lair is a little bit on the ways there. Lair is about finished, I would say, for ExionSpawn. And at the same time, Proficient's Lair already finished up. Oh, Banelings once again getting mighty close. That Queen trying to stay near the Banelings. Oh my goodness, a nice Baneling hit there for ExionSpawn, going to take out 4 or 5 of the Zerglings of Proficient, and that's going to easily give him the numbers to be able to defend against anything that Proficient has to throw at him right now. That Spire is about halfway finished now for Proficient. What is Spawn going to go for is the question now that his Lair is finished up, taking both the gases in his natural expansion as well now. And it looks like his first choice is going to be Burrow, so probably going to be going for Infestors there. Yes, there goes the Infestation Pit. Going to be doing a little bit of Burrow and Infestor play, might be trying to do a little bit of harassment, or might just be kind of trying to keep them alive in general. So, both players going to, I mean, either way, whether he went Spire or Infestation Pit there, it kind of balances itself out. The thing about Tier 2 Zerg is that everything soft counters each other. I mean, the Mutilus are obviously that nice, fast, multitasking unit. They're going to be able to run around your Infestor lines. You're just going to have to kind of, you know, have your Infestors moving constantly around the map trying to fungal growth them. But you'll land that fungal growth, throw down a couple of Infested Terrans. Mutilus are countered. Mutilus obviously kind of soft counter themselves, and Irony. I don't even know how exactly that works. It's just kind of weird. Looks like an Overseer Force Spawn's going to come through here, be able to pretty much get a full scout off of everything, and Spawn in response drops a Roach Warren. Might have done that before the scouting, actually. But Roaches are actually great against Mutilus, as dumb as that sounds. They're a great counter-attacking unit. So if your base is under siege by a ton of Mutilus, you're just taking so much damage. You pop out, you know, a nice round of 15 at 20 Roaches and throw them out across the map and do a little bit of damage yourself, because if your opponent is spending that much money on Mutilus that they can be, you know, giving you quite a bit of damage, then they're not probably going to have all that much ground defense. Mutilus going to be coming into the main base now of ExionSpawn, going to immediately take down this Queen, who is not going to be able to get the Larva Inject back down on the Hatchery. Well, Spore Crawlers are trying to get finished up here, and a couple of them are going to finish up, but it looks like Proficient has found a nice spot there. Oh no, that Infestation Pit under a lot of duress there, and I think that Infestation Pit's actually going to go down before Pathogen Glance can finish up. Spawn just makes a bunch of Infestors just to get as many out on the field as he can before that Infestation Pit does die. Oh my goodness! 3 seconds away before that finally went down, and now this Queen from the natural expansion going to go down as well. More Mutilus streaming in to Spawn's main base. Proficient taking a fairly nice lead here, supply blocking ExionSpawn fairly heavily here, and the aggression is not going to let up there as Proficient now moves down into the natural expansion and is going to be able to pretty much target fire whatever he wants, as there is very little opposition from ExionSpawn right now. And actually, where are the Infestors? The Infestors now coming out of the main base there. Once again, that Pathogen Glance did not finish up, which is the biggest deal in the world, because that means that no fungal growth can be laid down until they have gained energy. Oh, needs to be very careful with those Mutilus positioning right there. Could have lost a couple of Infestors for free, which is something he cannot afford to do. Spawn does have this third base now finished up, but Zerglings now streaming across the map to help assist those to assist the Mutilusks in their foray over here. The third base most definitely going to go down. ExionSpawn not even bothering trying to remake that Infestation Pit, not even bothering trying to remake the Roach Warren. There we go, now the Roach Warren going down, and now the Infestation Pit is going down. Caster's Curse quiet down, and Mutilus going to continue to rampage across the map for the moment, continuing to kill off Overlords after Overlords. That is supply and money that Spawn, I mean, I guess he does have a supply cap and he does have a bit of a bank, but that's going to be larva that he has to spend on those. That's going to still be money that he has to spend on those, and that's something he can't afford to do. Oh, and one nice fungal growth going down on top of those Mutalisks. He just needs to make sure to chain the fungals up. One Mutalisk goes down, and it looks like this bat is all going to die there. And one more fungal, I think. Yeah, one more fungal will be able to finish that off. And not getting fungal down, but is going to manage to get the get them to run into these spore crawlers. And I believe an infestor went down there. There's an infestor or queen. I didn't quite catch a glimpse of that. But now the Mutalisks, that's kind of a hard word to say. The Mutalisks going to be flying back home, recouping their losses, or at least in the middle of the map, and just kind of chilling out there. Hanging out, guys. Infestors are now coming onto the field for Proficient as well. Has pathogen glands finished up? I can only imagine. Yes, it has. A macro hatchery going down in the main base. Another hatchery going down for a third base as well. Proficient looking to be in a pretty good position this game, even going to be able to kill off the Overlord that's out across the map here. Just because, why not at this point? Both players sitting at a nice, cozy 42 Harvesters. I feel like Proficient has the ability to macro up, and he just kind of hasn't yet. I feel Spawn needs to get some sort of army out on the map right now because, I mean, at any point in time, Proficient could just run back in with those Mutalisks and start killing stuff once again. Zergling's going to be out across the map now, going over to the third base of Proficient. Proficient does, I believe, have enough to defend against this. Going to be trying to run up here and snipe the Spine Crawlers, but there are just too many Zerglings here. And, oh, the Infestor's going to be able to lay down a fungal growth. No, doesn't want to waste the energy, apparently, and is going to lose an Infestor, maybe, yeah, even two Infestors because of it. Ooh, that was a little bit of a missed micro there by Proficient. So Spawn taking victories wherever he can get them there, trying to reestablish his own third base. Has the Brofesters burrowed right now. Make sure that those cannot get sniped by any stray Mutalisks on the map. Going to be sticking on the lair tech for the moment. Both players actually going to be sticking on lair tech. And I'm not surprised as they're, once again, only on 3 bases apiece. Actually, Spawn not even on 3 bases yet. The additional gases have not yet been taken. And that's going to make it very difficult to do something like Ultimus play, like a Broodlord play for either players. You really need those extra gases. Zerg, very, very gas heavy race, obviously, especially if you want to be using roaches to complement your army, which is oh so common. Ooh, looks like quite a few roaches for Proficient here, going to be trying to move into the third base, but Spawn in position to defend against that. Proficient does have a slight upgrade advantage with 1-1 as opposed to Spawn's 0 armor and 1 attack. Oh, it looks like the Infestor and the roaches are going to be engaging for both players here. A couple of Infestarians being dropped down there. This is post-patch, so those eggs have less health. Not a big deal, though, as I think Spawn is going to be able to take this out with the defender's advantage and just a superior number of infestors. And Proficient going to be having to fall back home, who's fallen quite low on supply at this point in time. Does have some Mutalisks sitting to the south side of the map here, just outside of ExionSpawn's main base. Could fly those in at any point in time. Going to have to contend with the one spore crawler there, and I don't really feel like that would be all that worth it. And speaking of the Mutalisks, if we look over that army supply, which I just had up, we see Proficient quite low on that army supply tab. And you have to remember, 10 of that supply is pretty much worthless supply at this point in the game, because those Mutalisks just are awful in any sort of straight up engagement. Roaches do not have tongue and claws, but they do have glial reconstitution, which is going to make it so that when they burrow, they will recover health very, very quickly. Spawn running out across the map with so many roaches now. Now these Mutalisks are going to start whacking away the roaches you're going to notice just don't really care. In fact, they're just going to burrow, regain all the health that they just lost pretty much instantly, and be good to go. Overseer is going to be morphing in for Proficient, so he will be able to catch wind of this. Oh my goodness, that is a lot of infestors there. A lot of infestarians going down, going to be soaking up the fire from the spine crawlers, from the roaches, and here comes the big engagement. There's still plenty of energy left on those infestors for fungal growth as well. So it's just going to kind of come down to positioning here. Which, the positioning, by that I mean the fact that Spawn just has way more stuff on the field right now than Proficient does. In fact, laying down even more infestors. The DPS for ExionSpawn just so ridiculously high, hitting a +2 timing attack. 2-2 just about to finish up for Proficient, but only after a lot of his units have already gone down here. I think Spawn's going to be at least be able to take out this third base. He needs to make sure to focus down that hatchery, because a lot of Infestarians are going to be timing out now. More Infestarians going to be going down in that middle line. There goes the third base hatchery, and Spawn can now safely retreat, knowing that he has done the damage that he really needed to do. What happened to the Mutalisks is my question now. Apparently they died somewhere in there. They must have been sitting over those Infestarians, and it looks like Proficient going to be able to push back ExionSpawn, but now it's going to be Proficient sitting on 2 bases versus Spawn sitting on a nice cozy 3 bases. Proficient now out of options to really harass his opponent as well. Spawn just going to run back home once again. Proficient going to be giving chase, but he cannot afford to engage Spawn when Spawn has that defender's advantage here, especially with all of these infestors here that are actually completely out of energy. So I suppose that's not that much of a threat. There is no fungal growing energy on any of these infestors. And yeah, I guess Proficient is going to be engaging this here. I think that he has the initial numbers to win out against this, and he also has the upgrade advantage at 2-2 versus 0-2. But once again, with Spawn pumping out reinforcements, I really can only feel that this is going to go in Spawn's favor in the end. And I feel like Proficient really does not have the army that he can afford to just throw away. Here comes some infested Terrans out of ExionSpawn, going to be able to soak up a little bit of damage, going to be able to dish out a little bit of damage as well. Proficient going to be trying to move up into the main base, the natural expansion of ExionSpawn, but he just does not have the numbers. Here come the reinforcing roaches for ExionSpawn. 127 to 103 supply, and Proficient is forced to once again fall back home, trying to establish his third base here. If we look over at that spending tab, it's been fairly even all game here. Both players spent about the same amount, so that third base snipe for ExionSpawn really comes into play there. Otherwise, Proficient would have definitely been ahead in that category. 53 to 52 harvesters right now. Proficient fairly saturated. Actually, no, his main base is very oversaturated at this point in time. Needs to get this third base established so he can get his mining really going once again. Spawn going to be in a much better position. They're going to be laying down a fourth base as well as a Hydralisk den. So going for a slightly older style PVZ there, which is going to be that Roach Infestor Hydralisk. Not going to be going up to Hive Tech at all, because screw Hive Tech. Who needs tier 3 when you can just amass tier 1 units and be perfectly fine? Am I right? Am I right? Blizzard. Roach is going to be trying to engage ExionSpawn there, but I don't know if it's going to quite be enough. It looks like Spawn just has playing flat out more here. Once again, Proficient does have that upgrade advantage, and it's definitely taking a little bit of effect here. And trying to burrow there. That was one free attack round for Proficient, which I think is going to be just enough for him to be able to maybe win out this battle. But there are no reinforcements coming in. The Baneling coming in, trying to do something, not doing too good of a job there. And it's going to be close. Either way, Spawn's not going to be left with enough units to really push into this third and do damage. Well, really all that much damage, I should say. One fungal growth does go down. That was a good fungal growth there. But does he have enough roaches to really come up and mop up what's left here of ExionSpawn there? One more fungal growth going down. Not quite as good as the first. There we go. Here come the reinforcements. Going to be able to take out the last of Spawn's roaches there. But this is what I was talking about when the game was first starting up. We're seeing Spawn getting into that late game phase. He's starting to feel very comfortable. Has a nice number of infestors on the field right now, sitting at around 8 infestors. Has the Hydralisk den finished up now. Has his Carapace upgrades really starting to get on par with his opponents. And even though Spawn has just been doing one upgrade at a time as opposed to the 2 upgrades of his opponent, we can still see that he is fairly even at this point in time in that upgrade count. Grooved Spines coming on the field, so he's going to have 2 forms of tier 2 tech rather than just the single form of tier 2 tech over on Proficient side. That is also going to shut down any, I don't know. I don't know why Proficient might do Mutalisks. But, I mean, if he was even thinking about it, it's definitely shut down now. I mean, there's really no reason to make Mutalisks in the late game, though, so I can't really see that being that much of a factor. Hive Tech is on the field now. I don't believe we've seen any Hive technology on the field. No adrenal glands or anything. No adrenal glands, no Ultra Cavern, no Greater Spire, which I can only assume would be the natural progression of the build right now for Proficient, who is just now being able to get his third base gases going once again. Spawn going to be moving out across the map along that north side here. Hydralisk now coming on the field. Groove Spine's just about to finish up. +2 just about to finish up. This would be his moment to get some work done, as that's going to be 2-2 versus 2-2 with a tech advantage over in Spawn's favor. And Spawn can really kind of determine how this game goes from this point. He can sit back, he can start working on getting his +3 upgrades, or he can move out across the map and try to get some damage done, which once again the time would be now, as Proficient just now starting to get himself remacroed up. Spawn going to be maxing out in just a minute or so here. But it looks like Spawn is going to play that safer style, going to sit back and just kind of macro up his army, start building up a bank, probably lay down a little bit of Hive tech there, as we do have the Hive coming onto the field now in the main base here. And it's just going to kind of try to settle in and go for that, the max remax kind of push here. Proficient going to be moving out, taking his 4th base now. Spawn, there we go, now going to be moving out. That +2 finish, the Hydralisk in the army, the Infestors in the army. And he has about 40 seconds to make this attack happen before the 3-3 of his opponent finishes up. with the Hydralisk, I think that Spawn will have enough to push us, not to mention he also has about a 20 to 30 supply lead over his opponent, 136 to 114 army supply. Here comes ExionSpawn barreling into the 4th base. The Infestors are going to be a little bit behind, so a couple of great fungal growths going off in the early stages of this engagement for Proficient, but it's not done yet. Here come the Infestors of ExionSpawn, going to be laying down infested Terrans from both players, really. And only actually 4. Oh, great fungal growth going down on the north side of the army for Proficient. And, oh, I think Spawn's going to have just enough to be able to push through this line. The 4th base now under siege from these roaches. All the Infestors now going to be laying down all of their energy in the infested areas. Hydra's coming in, and I think Spawn knows if he can cancel his base out, it's going to be game 163 to 88 supply, and that is indeed a good game from Proficient. ExionSpawn going to live to fight for a game number 3 in this best of 3 series. So Spawn managing to take it to the late game, like I was saying in the early game. And if you let Spawn get to the late game, you are not going to have a good time. Stick around, folks. Game number 3.